So with AI technology rapidly advancing, it is definitely a question on some people's minds with as to what jobs are going to remain. This video will highlight some of the emerging technologies with AI, and not just that, some of the secret technologies that you may have not known have existed and which jobs are going to be going as a result of that. So stay tuned for this one because it's fascinating to see how quickly this technology is being developed. So here are some fascinating statistics that I found on an article from CNBC, and it says that more than 1/3 of business leaders say that AI replaced workers in 2023, according to a recent report from Resume Builder. Employees say that 29% of their work tasks are completely replaceable by AI, project management and collaboration software company Asana found in its survey. And it does say that while positions like research and data analysis are in line for AI automation, companies will still need someone to prompt the AI, make sense of the results and take action, which is of course true. So I do want to point out that of course I don't want this video to be all doom and gloom because that isn't helpful at all. I want to point out which jobs are going to be replaced and then of course show you how you can of course adapt to this and then of course position yourself so that you're better equipped to first of all know what's coming and then second of all take action to ensure that you're not one of the ones left confused when it eventually happens. So of course one of the first things that's going to happen is customer service. Now there is a very, very large debate on this recently, but I'm just going to talk about this first because this part is, fascinating. But like I said, I'll give you both sides of the spectrum. So of course, everybody knows what ChatGPT at this point is. Of course, this is just an article that says ChatGPT provided better customer service than his staff. He then fired them. And of course, everybody knows that with the rise of LLMs, that, customer service chatbots, ones that are online, this is going to be something that you can use and something that companies are using now. Especially in companies' email correspondences, this is definitely something. So, these writing kind of style jobs and customer service mainly are definitely going to be affected. Now, of course, this article here is basically talking about he never liked his customer services team. His agents gave generic responses to clients' issues. Faced with difficult problems, they were stumped. But then he saw that ChatGPT could do it. He just pretty much fired his entire team. And this is something that is not surprising at all. We know that ChatGPT is something that is free. We know that the version of 3.5 is very, very efficient at providing good customer service responses. Now, not only is this something that is going to be possible, eventually I do believe that when these AI chatbots do move on to essentially we have... So this right here is PlayHD, and basically it's the fastest generative AI text-to-speech API. And I think that once this is hooked up to some customer service lines with, good information and it's trained on good data, essentially what we'll have people talking and AI is responding. And the thing is it will sound very realistic. So let's take a look at this because you're going to want to see exactly how quickly the software is moving and how good it really is, because I would imagine that once this API gets cheap enough and lifelike enough, this is what people are going to be using in their companies.
Hello world. Hi, how are you? Hi there. I'm calling in regards to the purchase you made last week. Hello, Play Support speaking. Please hold on a sec and let me just pull up your details real quick. Can you tell me your account email or your phone number?
So from that conversation, you could see that the responses, if we actually go back for a second here, you can see that responses were 200 milliseconds, which is lightningly, blazingly fast in terms of having an AI be able to respond to you with a level of human sophistication. That is something that really did shock me, and it wouldn't surprise me that if many customer service agents were going to be replaced by this software. Now, of course, like I said, it does have its limitations, because one of the things why this isn't going to be rolled out completely just yet, I think on the lower end it will, but if you're, I guess you could say maybe a higher up in terms of customer service, like you really know how to direct people and deal with the right solutions, I think that your job is going to be safe, because one thing about these large language models is that they do have some hallucinations, and the hallucination problem hasn't been solved yet. So until the hallucination problem has been solved, I think that, certain parts of customer service are still safe, because one of the things that we do have is that certain, customer service departments, you can't really share that kind of data. And I don't think that you would want a language model, being able to interact with your data. Not that it saves the data, but, they always frequently tell us that don't put sensitive data into ChatGPT. So this is definitely something that I do think that if you are in customer service, definitely going to work somewhere where I guess you could say the details are more sensitive and not as basic as some standard companies. Then, of course, we have telemarketers. Now, this one is actually quite similar to the last job because it kind of shows you how phone calls will change. And if you don't know what telemarketers are, it's essentially people that pick up the phone and then they do sales calls. Now, the theory here is basically that if you have an AI system that can call 5,000 people constantly, non-stop, 24/7, they never get tired, they always stick to the sales script, and they know exactly what to say, they never get nervous, they never trip up on their words, why wouldn't you just pay like $200 a month for that software that can, blast out all of these calls to, all these numbers, can do cold calling for you as much as you want when you need to, call up your team, and then of course train your team on how to talk, how to use certain words, and the nuance of everything. I think this demo is going to show you how this could potentially change. So this is why you do want to take a look at this.
Oh, yeah, who's this?
Hey James, it's Alexander from Tesla Motors. How's your day going so far?
It's going pretty good, my man. How about yourself? You said from Tesla, right? The car company?
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling from Tesla Motors, the car company. Did you have any trouble or questions while customizing your car on our website?
No, we're just kind of shopping around and, just taking a look.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Sometimes we're just exploring our options before making a decision, and I totally respect that. Can I ask you why you were looking into a Tesla in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I've had my car for way too long now, and so I'm kind of taking a look at options. And I have a lot of friends who just absolutely rave about Tesla, and me myself, I'm actually a big fan of Elon Musk. So I figured I might as well take a look and kind of explore my options there and see what you guys had available.
That's a smart approach, James. It's always good to explore your options and see what's available. Out of curiosity, what do you currently drive?
Yeah, I drive it's an old Ford Fusion, my man.
Nice, a Ford Fusion. Why are you looking to switch things up and consider a Tesla?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that car since I got my first job years back, and it was just time for a change. So it's like, it's not super reliable anymore, and it's time for an upgrade. I'm moving into the city now, and I just think it's time. While I get the new apartment, might as well get the new car at the same time,
I totally get that, James. Moving to a new apartment is a great opportunity to make some fresh changes, including getting a new car. Are you looking at purchasing any other cars at the moment, or are your eyes just set on Tesla?
I'm still looking around, but mainly Tesla. I have a lot of friends who, obviously have them, and I'm a little bit jealous. I have to say, when I, test drive them, and they're super fast. Obviously, they look really, really amazing. So mainly looking at Teslas and just kind of trying to figure out.
I won't play the entire conversation here, but I think you are getting the point. The point is that this technology is rapidly advancing, and this was just one demo I found from one company. So understand that there are other companies that are also working on this kind of technology, which goes to show that I think whichever company does manage to figure this out and crack the code, it's going to probably become the baseline for cold calling. Now, I do think, like I said, the human impact of cold calling is always going to be, substantially much better. And, I'm guessing clients and a lot of the higher deals, the deals where you're trying to sell things that are in the 4-figure range to the 5-figure range, are definitely going to be something that you need to, I guess you could say, have a real human on the line for. But like I said, I think what we need to understand is that it is going to be affecting this area, and that the bottom line is going to be impacted the most. Then of course we have translation jobs. So recently there was this post on Reddit, and this was literally only 3 days ago, but if you've ever used ChatGPT to translate something, you'll know that this is something that does happen. So they actually talked about a big layoff at Duolingo, and it said that in December 2023, Duolingo offboarded a huge percentage of their contractors who did translations. Of course, this is because they figured out that AI can do these translations in a fraction of a time, plus it saves them money. I'm just being curious. As a user, how do you feel knowing that sentences and translations are coming from AI instead of human beings? Does it matter? To me, as a person, I'm pretty sure that you can all agree that it doesn't really matter if the translations are coming from a person or an AI, because either way, we just want the information outputted. I think it's very similar to a calculator. You just want, a computer to do it. And if a computer can do it, then it doesn't really matter. The human-centric nature isn't that prevalent in something as translation. And you can see here that in the post, this person says, here's the final email I got 2 weeks ago, just in case you wanted to see it. I worked there for 5 years. Our team had 4 core members and 2 of us got the boot. The 2 who remained will just review AI content to make sure it's acceptable. So yeah, it seems like what you have to understand in this capitalist society is that these companies work in a way where profits are their end goal. And if they can, remove any expenses or reduce those expenses, they are always always going to do that because it allows them to make much more money, which is their purpose. So I think this is pretty crazy because not only have we seen this in this, what's also crazy about translation jobs is that, you know, sometimes what some creators might do is in order to translate their content. But I think that with the advances in even translation software and not just general translation jobs, and this isn't to say that, you know, like, you know, when you have an actual translator speaking with someone, like perhaps at the UFC or at an event where, you know, a sports star doesn't speak the language, I think those translation jobs and translation jobs in like the law side of things, like in the courtroom and stuff, will always be needed. But I do think that new technology is going to change that. So if you haven't seen this, I'm going to show you guys this crazy technology. And essentially what you're taking a look at here is software called 11 Labs. Now, I'm going to get to 11 Labs later on in the video, but 11 Labs allows you to dub a video into any different language. So I can detect a source, so I can put English, and I can, you know, upload a file. So I can upload a file of me speaking, and then I can literally dub that audio into a different language. You can see here all of the different languages. Now, for those of you who think that it doesn't sound that good, I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick test. I'm going to grab perhaps one of my own videos, and then I'm going to see exactly how it does it. So essentially, this is the clip that I've chosen to dub. So this is a clip from the Joe Rogan podcast. So we're going to take a look at we're going to take a look at the first 9 seconds of this because that's what I'm going to be dubbing. So if we just click play.
In the field of AI in 2017 that everyone needs to know, because I was not freaked out about AI at all, until this big change.
And then, of course, I'm going to show you guys how 11 Labs works. So, of course, with 11 Labs now, in about, you know, a minute or so, it's just dubbed that. So I'm going to click view, and then we're going to be able to see what this sounds like. So it has source language, the target language, and then if we click play.
En el campo de la IA en 2017 que todos necesitan saber porque no me asustaba la IA en absoluto.
So you can see right there that it was able to do that pretty quickly. Now, you're able to do this with many different videos that you do want. And what's crazy is that this is something that I've seen across the board. So one thing that you might be saying is that, oh, the translations, you know, don't mirror onto the mouth. There is software, there's tons of different software companies that I've covered before that actually do have that as well. So like I said, there were previously people who were needed to translate videos, but this is simply no longer that case. But like I said, if you are a translator, maybe you do want to move into something that is more into the legal side, because I think those ones do have to be really, really accurate and pretty much perfect. Now, here we get onto a controversial one. So we have entry-level programming and coding, and this is where generative AI forces Stack Overflow to lay off 28% of its workforce. And it says the reduction in headcount is directly related to the proliferation of generative AI-driven coding assistants from companies such as Microsoft, AWS, Google, and IBM, a study from Cornell University showed. And of course, if you haven't been paying attention because you haven't been paying attention to the coding stuff that's going on, recently we had AlphaCode, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. So Google's AlphaCode, if you didn't know, is the successor to the AlphaCode, and essentially it is the first AI system to perform at the median level of the median competitor in competitive programming, a difficult reasoning task involving advanced math, logic, and computer science. And essentially, AlphaCode 2 solved 1.7 times more problems and performed better than 85% of competition participants. So this AlphaCode 2 system has demonstrated impressive performance in competitive programming environments, outperforming 85% of all human coders. And in the recent contest, where it solved 43% of problems, it nearly doubled the success rate of the original software. Now, AlphaCode 2 does excel in handling complex mathematical and theoretical computer science challenges, and it shows proficiency in dynamic programming, which also involves breaking down complex programs into simpler components. Now, however, there are some limitations to this because, like I said, this video isn't all doom and gloom. The AlphaCode 2 actually faces several challenges. So, number one, it relies heavily on trial and error, which leads to high operational costs, and it also requires effective filtering of code samples. And despite these challenges, AlphaCode 2 does represent a significant stride in AI-driven coding and has the potential to revolutionize the coding landscape. So it's important to note that while it has shown impressive performance in competitive programming, it is not yet part of any product that is hitting the shelves anytime soon. And the reason it isn't out yet is because of the computing costs. So it is expected that some of AlphaCode's 2 capabilities will be incorporated into the Gemini model, which is going to be released earlier this year, which is 2024. And like I said, the video isn't all doom and gloom. Although AlphaCode 2 is very good, And although, yes, in the next 5 to 10 years that coding could be 100% automated, I do still think that human oversight is something that is going to be needed because, number one, software like this, the compute costs are very expensive and programming languages are constantly evolving. So the problem that was recently discovered in a new research paper that was about LLMs basically talks about how LLMs are essentially just a snapshot of the world in a specific time. And it goes to show that although LLMs and AI systems might be good at certain tasks at the moment, they aren't that good at certain tasks that they see in the future because they haven't seen them before. Now, I do think this kind of system was a bit more advanced, but the point is that although coding is definitely going to get affected, I think that for the foreseeable future, until we do have a major breakthrough, maybe until Alpha Code 3 or 4, that these systems, unless the compute power can be reduced, we're still going to need human coders. But it is definitely something that we can't deny is going to be impacted on some of the base levels because a lot of these base systems can do base levels of code. Now, we do have something that was also a bit interesting, and if you haven't tried this out, you should try this out. So on the GPT-4 developer live stream, if you didn't see this, basically they talked about how you could actually use GPT-4 for accounting. Now, this doesn't mean that you can input all your data into here and then go ahead immediately and file your taxes. I would always, get a CPA, like an actual official accountant. But I would say that this is very, very effective at doing what it does. Now, I don't think it's going to replace traditional accountants because you always need a human that is up to date with all the laws because, like I said, these LLMs don't, have all the updates. And the problem is that in order to get the updates, you have to completely retrain the model. That's why ChatGPT has only information from April 2023. Of course, it can browse the internet, but the point is the base model is just from April 2023. That's when the information area is updated to. So the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that although this is effective, and I'm going to show you guys the demo so you can see how effective this is, accounting is something that is going to be affected a little bit. And this is something that I have actually tested and it is actually really good. So I would try this if you're in the UK or USA because it actually does work. And I would just tell it everything about yourself. So I would tell it your age, where you live, what your company does, whatever you do, whatever your financial situation is, what you want to do, and just put it in. And it actually does work very, very effectively because GPT-4 is actually really good at math. And this is something that they did show in the developer live stream. So take a look because it shows you how good this is. And I think in the future, if we do have personal AI systems that are really good at accounting, it might, wipe out the need. And remember, guys, overall in this video, what I'm saying here is not that, this job is completely going away, but the demand for certain roles are going to be reduced to the point where there might not be as many jobs needed. And that is something that we do need to take into account from, because if there's a rise of AI systems that can do your accounting and taxes for you in around 5 minutes, like the demand for you to go out and find an actual accountant is going to be reduced that much.
I've shown you reading existing content. I've shown you how to build with the system as a partner. The last thing I'm going to show is how to work with the system to accomplish a task that none of us like to do, but we all have to. So you may have guessed, the thing we're going to do is taxes. Now note that GPT is not a certified tax professional, nor am I, so you should always check with your tax advisor, but it can be helpful to understand some dense content, to just be able to empower yourself to be able to sort of solve problems and get a handle on what's happening when you could not otherwise. So once again, I'll do a system message. In this case, I'm going to tell it that it's tax GPT, which is not a specific thing that we've trained into this model. You can be very creative if you want with the system message to really get the model in the mood of what is your job, what are you supposed to do. So I pasted in the tax code. This is about 16 pages worth of tax code. And there's this question about Alice and Bob. They got married at one point, and here are their incomes, and they take a standard deduction. They're filing jointly. So first question, what is their standard deduction for 2018? So while the model is chugging, I'm going to solve this problem by hand to show you what's involved. So the standard deduction is the basic standard deduction plus the additional. The basic one is 200% for a joint return of subparagraph C, which is here. Okay, so additional doesn't apply. The limitation doesn't apply. Okay, none of these apply. Oh, wait, special rules for taxable year 2018, which is the one we care about, through 2025, you have to substitute 12,000 for 3,000. So 200% of 12,000, 24,000 is the final answer. If you notice, the model got the same conclusion, and you can actually read through its explanation. And to tell you the truth, the first time I tried to approach this problem myself, I could not figure it out. I spent half an hour reading through the tax code, trying to figure out this back reference and why there's subparagraph, just what's even going on. It was only by asking the model to spell out its reasoning, and then I followed along, that I was like, oh, I get it now. I understand how this works. And so that, I think, is where the power of this system lies. It's not perfect, but neither are you. And together is this amplifying tool that lets you just reach new heights. And you can go further. You can say, okay, now calculate their total liability. And here we go. It's doing the calculation. So every time it does it, it's amazing. This model is so good at mental math. It's way, way better than I am at mental math. It's not hooked up to a calculator. Like, that's another way that you could really try to enhance these systems. But it has these raw capabilities that are so flexible. It doesn't care if it's code. It doesn't care if it's language. It doesn't care if it's tax. All of these capabilities in one system that can be applied towards the problem that you care about, towards your application, towards whatever you build. And so to end it, the final thing that I will show is a little other dose of creativity, which is now summarize this problem into a rhyming, and there we go, a beautiful, beautiful poem about doing your taxes.
So yeah, that was Greg Brockman showing you exactly how GPT-4 can be used to do your taxes. Like I said, it's something that everybody does need to do at the end of the year, and I'm not sure how things go in America, but I do know that if you do get it wrong, you do get fined, and that's not something that you want to play with. The IRS catch everybody. So let's take a look at some of the other ones that are more interesting. Now, this one is a little bit different because there is, I think, always going to be a human in this part just because of the cost of things, but I think it's kind of fascinating. So this one here talks about traditional security roles. So essentially, you know, with AI, you can have faster threat detection and response. AI can actually sift through vast amounts of data to identify abnormal behavior and detect malicious activity, such as new zero-day attacks, and it can automate many security processes, such as management, making it easier to stay on top of cybersecurity needs. So what you're about to watch in this video is essentially some robots that are security robots. Now, I don't think this is anytime soon because robots are very expensive, but do take a look at this video because these are the security robots. And what's interesting is that this company is actually the company that OpenAI has actually invested in. So these robots are patrolling this place and they are IDing everyone by face and they are getting their ID badges, as you can see. And you might think that this is a little bit dystopian, and I think it is just a little bit. I think it's rather unsettling, but you can see here how exactly the system works. It's a robot that, you know, is on wheels. There is also a person that can use VR teleop mode to essentially control the robot, and that's basically where you can control the robot with a VR headset, and then you can actually move the robot in the physical world as if you were there. And yeah, this is something that could take place, but this is, like I said, only if these robots do get cheap enough to the point where that can be. And you have to remember, some companies aren't going to be able to have these advanced security systems. So at smaller companies in smaller places, you know, you're just going to have a human, because a human in some places is what, like $20, $15 an hour for security. I'm not exactly sure how much they're paid, but this robot right here, I think it's around $180,000. So yeah, I mean, having like 5 of these running around is like, you know, close to $1 million. And that's not something that's going to be feasible for most companies, but it is something that is going to be there. There's also some other things that you can think about. So for example, you know, improved accuracy and efficiency. So AI-based cybersecurity systems provide improved accuracy and efficiency compared to traditional systems. For example, AI can scan numerous devices for potential vulnerabilities in a fraction of the time it would take a human, and they can help identify malicious activity by, you know, creating and correlating different data points, allowing proactive protection of systems, and they can help respond faster to attacks by automating specific tasks, such as rerouting traffic away from a vulnerable server or alerting the IT team to potential issues. And of course, they can autonomously predict and detect emerging threats by learning from previously detected behaviors. So here we have an AI system that is AI powered, and it's an object detection system to catch and find people for littering. And remember, this is in the UK, not China. Now, I don't want to get into the debate about is this really dystopian and stuff like that, but I personally wouldn't like to live in a society where there's this AI overlord system that can see everything that you're doing and analyze absolutely everything, to if you're walking too fast or if you cross the road at the wrong, you know, centimeter, you're going to be fined. But if we take a look at this video, it can show you that, you know, these highly sophisticated systems can spot everything. Like, you know, a police officer or, you know, other systems wouldn't be able to see that someone is littering and throwing things out of their car. But these AI systems essentially can watch everywhere at all times, and you can see that it's able to look and immediately see that this person is throwing things out of their car, and it could easily just grab their license plate, you know, send them a fine in the post. And yeah, depending on where you stand, I don't think littering is great because it does definitely make the place worse, but I think that this is definitely something that could lead to more, you know, of those systems that are very, very invasive. And that's definitely not something that I do want. Everyone should have their right to their privacy. But I do think that this is definitely something that a lot of people are probably going to be quite concerned about. Then, of course, here we have one that is fairly fascinating, because the debate on whether or not this is possible has been going on for quite some time. And I do agree. I do agree that this is something that is, quite hard. But I think that this is something that will change with the aspect of AGI. So the prospect of achieving full self-driving or level 5 autonomy, where vehicles can operate without any human intervention under all conditions, remains a significant challenge and is still currently in development. So according to the information provided, the current state of autonomous driving technology is mostly at level 2, which is partial automation, with some advancements towards level 3, conditional automation, and level 4, which is high automation systems. Now, McKinsey and Company suggest that by 2035, autonomous driving could create significant revenue, that level 3 and level 4 systems for highway driving will likely be more commonly available in private vehicles. However, there are numerous challenges to overcome, including traffic management, infrastructure, revenue, liability insurance, police and emergency response, social and justice and equity. Additionally, weather conditions, road conditions, traffic conditions, accident liability, and radar interference are cited as design challenges for fully autonomous systems. Now, the UK government has expressed optimism about the deployment of self-driving vehicles, predicting that by 2025, which is next year, the UK will begin to see deployment of such vehicles, and by 2035, 40% of new cars in the UK could have full self-driving capabilities. However, this is contingent on significant improvements in the technology and infrastructure, and the Transport Select Committee remains unconvinced about the rapid introduction of autonomous vehicles. The legislative and social acceptance of self-driving cars is actually also a major hurdle, because with no laws in many jurisdictions currently permitting self-driving vehicles on public roads for general use, this is something that we're not sure we're going to have. Now, moreover, the recent withdrawal of a leading provider of robo-taxis in the US and the introduction of strict legislation in the UK suggest that the developers' hopes of monetizing the concept are more and more remote than before. And in terms of technological developments in artificial intelligence, so this is going to be the company that does replace Uber if it does, because Waymo is an autonomous driving technology company that has been making significant strides in the field of self-driving vehicles. It has partnered with Uber to make its autonomous vehicles available to more people via the Uber platform, and this partnerships allows Uber to hail Waymo's autonomous vehicles for rides and food delivery in certain areas. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that Waymo will completely replace taxis or Uber drivers, because Waymo's autonomous vehicles are currently operating in a limited service area, and while the company has plans to expand, it will take time to cover more regions. Now, furthermore, Waymo's vehicles are not exclusive to Uber. For example, in Phoenix, residents can also summon a Waymo vehicle through the company's own app, Waymo One. And the transition to fully autonomous vehicles also faces challenges such as regulatory hurdles, technological limitations, and societal acceptance. For instance, a taxi driver and their allies have rallied against the unlimited expansion of Waymo and Cruise, another autonomous vehicle company. And there are also concerns about the inequality inherent in the ride-hailing industry, as taxi drivers have been required to pay significant fees to operate, which autonomous vehicles like Waymo and Cruise are not subject to. So, moreover, while Waymo's autonomous vehicles are designed to follow traffic laws strictly, ride-hail drivers suggest that sometimes the rules of the road need to be bent to provide the level of service that passengers are accustomed to. And this actually does indicate that human drivers may still have a role to play in the ride-hailing industry. But overall, like we always say, this will be something that could definitely impact certain countries and systems, because one thing we do know is that as this technology evolves and as it does get better and better, we are likely to see more and more cities mapped out and autonomous systems providing these services, so long as they are cheaper, more effective, and more reliable. Now, this is something that, as I was researching this video, I found to be rather surprising, because fast food cooks are what some people would regard to as a very entry-level job. And this system, which was only released around 11 months ago, and I didn't actually see this technology before, but it shows us how food can be automated. Now, I do think that because, like I said, one of the main things to stopping this is, of course, the cost of these systems and the efficiency and the compute. But I think if we do take a look at this, you can see just how, if these systems do get better, you're able to do this. And I've actually seen this in some places that I've actually gotten food before. So I wouldn't be surprised if this does become more and more real as time goes on. So I'll show you guys this 1-minute demonstration, and then you can tell me all what you think about this system. So once again, this is going to be something that robots need to definitely get some more advancements in if we are to see wild scale application. But I think the robotics breakthrough will likely change absolutely everything. Then of course we did have Miso Robotics, which are really working on something incredible, because this one actually does, any kitchen, and that was really shocking to me because, unlike the previous one, you can just get this, and you can see that I'm actually stuttering because I just couldn't believe it when I saw this. And you can just get this AI system to I guess you could say assist current workforces, and like I said, it's not something that's going to work by itself, but this could definitely replace someone, because as always, the problem with robots and AI systems is that they work forever, don't need any bonuses, they don't need any sick pay, they don't need any talking to, they don't need absolutely anything. They always do what they need to. So I think that this level of automation, if it does come to fruition, is likely to be pretty fascinating. And it might just be something that does just assist workers. But like I said, if we had, previously 6 workers all working in there, and then we have now this rail thing in there, and you only need 2 workers, you have to understand that the demand, like I said, goes down significantly. It's something that you should pay attention to. Then of course we have any administrative job, because I think this is quite obvious. A lot of the admin stuff that we do, like data entry and all that stuff, can be done by ChatGPT. This is not something that is pretty much surprising. I'm pretty sure that, robust AI systems that can do this kind of work is going to be something that, has been being worked on for quite some time. And I don't think that these admin kind of jobs are going to be missed anyways, because data entry and admin, all this stuff kind of piling up is not something that anyone does really want to do. In addition, we do have travel agents, and travel agents are something that has been, already affected by Google search. But I think that with the advent of AI systems, and even with Google Bard, you can get Google Bard to plan you a complete journey. You can do the same with ChatGPT. This is a website where you can get an AI travel assistant. You can tell them all the details. They'll plan absolutely everything for you. You just need to save it. There was also this one right here, which is what someone built themselves an AI agent, and essentially they just had them plan, criticize, reason, and then just continuously do it. And then essentially they just made them generate an entire itinerary for the journey. And it says plan, review the itinerary, determine which activities require advanced booking, research the options for booking, yada, yada, yada. And like I said, it is something that can be automated. And I think that this is something that will be done in the future, because even if you still go to a human, I'm pretty sure that humans are going to be using AI systems to automate this entire process. Then of course, interestingly enough, this is something that has already been happening. So warehouses, and I wasn't able to get the actual footage, but if you do some research on Amazon and their warehouses, there are tons of robots, and they are honestly consistently expanding the robots in their factories. What you're currently looking at is Digit, and essentially this robot is the first robot that is designed for factories. And I've been looking at a lot of research papers, and there are tons of robots that are currently being developed that are making robots more and more efficient in terms of packing things, in terms of moving things around. And like I said, I do think that human dexterity, the ability to just, have a full day's energy just based on a packet of crisps, is just incredibly energy efficient. And the dexterity that you get with your hands, the range of motion, the degrees of freedom are nothing compared to that of the current robot. So it will still require some, of course, breakthroughs. But like I said, this is something that is being worked on. And as the future continues, we're going to be seeing these roles decline significantly. Now, something else that I did want to talk about is the high automation occupations. So here is a table from a PDF from a government institution where they were analyzing all of the high automation occupations, and they talk about authors, writers, translators, bank and post office clerks, bookkeepers, payroll managers and wages clerk, brokers, call and contact center occupations, customer service occupations, finance officers, financial administrative occupations, human resources administrative occupations, librarians, market research interviewers, and other administrative occupations, pensions and insurance clerks and assistants, telephone salespersons, travel agents, typists, and keyboard-related occupations. So you can see that I didn't just, pull the list out of nowhere. This is something that was, corroborated by several other reports. And also what you can do, if you really want to know, you can just search up your job and then search up the AIOE, which is essentially just AI occupational exposure, which just means your exposure to the current AI technology. Now, this one was LLMs, and you can see here that some of the highest, I guess you could say that require mental bandwidth, some of the highest IQ jobs that you need, like finance and all these, jobs here have some of the most exposure, but some of the, I guess you could say the ones that would require a physical human doing something with their hands, like agriculture, fishing, motor trades, construction. These are the ones that are least likely. Now, in addition here, this is what I talked about, the AIOE, the AI occupational exposure. You can see that, some of the top ones, accounting and finance, administration, ICT, marketing and sales, and some of the bottom ones are building and construction. So I think it's really fascinating to understand where we're going to be going in terms of technology, because robots is much slower. It's lagging behind AI, but it will catch up one day, maybe within 10 to 20 years. But that just means that jobs like building and construction are going to likely be some of the last jobs to be automated, because humans are just far too efficient at building and working with their hands. They're just, way more effective than any robot at the current time. So that brings me to the next 3 steps. Okay. So with that being said, the next 3 steps are, of course, number 1, we need to reduce hallucinations for these AI models, because with certain chatbots, if they hallucinate, the problem is that you can't use them, because imagine a customer talking to an AI system that says, hey, we actually have this product in stock and you can buy it for $50 when in reality the product's $500. It creates this whole issue, and that's actually happened recently on Twitter. And then of course we have AI agents. So these are going to be the next few steps that where job loss really ramps up, because AI agents are going to replace any job on a computer, because an AI agent is going to be able to control your mouse, do anything you want on a computer, edit a video, send an email, watch a movie, tell you the good bits. Like, it's going to be able to do absolutely anything. So that, like, anything on a computer is going to be, be able to be automated once they do solve that. And this is what Bill Gates talked about. So if you want to watch that video, don't forget to check out the video in the description, where it's called Bill Gates Talks on AI Agents. And Bill Gates has predicted a lot of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 5 years, any job on a computer is automatable. And then, of course, you have AGI, which is basically all jobs, or 80% of jobs, because AGI problem is that it's an advanced AI system that's going to be as general as any good human. And with that, we have AGI that's probably going to make breakthroughs in research across all domains, including robotics. And from there, once we do get robotics, that just leaves the last 20%, which is, the physical labor jobs, to be gone. So AGI is going to, really, really change everything. And I think AI agents will kind of be it'll be a blurry line. But yeah, that's where we are. And I'll leave some links in the description so you guys can know which jobs are going to be most exposed. And there also will be another video in which I talk about which jobs are never going to be exposed and how you can actually position yourself for those areas.